Hi everyone, it's Christina from Card Creations and More by C. It's kind of late here tonight, so I have to be a little bit quiet. But I wanted to show you guys how I make my keychains. So what I'm going to be making is another owl because I do owe one to somebody that I work with. And so I laid all of this out on my gypsy so that I could get all of the pieces done in one mat. And my owl is 2.5 inches. So what I did, the middle section of the owl is going to be the black layer because you want to be able to see the black through the eyes. So what I did, I'm going to be adhering all of this together, but when I make my keychains, I like the actual back side of the owl to be the same color as what the main color on the front is going to be. So when we put this owl together, you'll see that the purple is going to be the layer underneath. That's what was requested, was purple, yellow, and black. And then when you flip it, it's still yellow, but then in the middle it's going to be those. And then I've actually cut the other layers out in orange. So we're going to get started. What we're going to do is, I'm just going to try to do this as quickly as I can. I like to use the zig the best. I suppose quick dry would probably work, but every time I've used that, it just tends to warp my paper, and also I find that it bleeds out the sides a lot, so I just like to use my zig. So what I'm going to do is just start adhering down the layers. So I'm taking my first black layer and putting it on top of the back yellow layer, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to place this as perfectly as I can. You don't have much time to move it if it's not quite right, but that looks pretty good. So I think we'll leave it at that. And then the next thing that I do is I start, once I have the first layers together, I kind of start with my hole punch, punching the hole that's going to be holding the keyring. So I start with the next layering, and then I just sort of sometimes start piling the adhesive right on the part here, because this way I can avoid the hole. So I'm just going to start. You will go through a lot of zig if you're doing a ton of keychains. I know the weekend that I made those 6, I had to go the Monday night and go get another glue pen. So I thought that they lasted forever, but apparently there is an ending to them. So now I'm going to always keep an extra zig on hand because it's not anything that I ever want to be out of. So I've just applied the third layer, and we're going to be doing 8 total layers. I line it up with the same hole that's already there to punch the next hole, and then we continue on from there. So I don't have fancy editing skills to cut all of this or fast forward it. Maybe one day I can take a class on how to do that. So if you don't want to see me adhere all of these layers, you can just fast forward through this part on your computer. It's funny because I'm really good with the computer and a lot of things, but video editing was never my strong suit, so I know how to do bare minimum things. And it's sometimes a little tricky just to make sure that you're getting the layers placed pretty perfectly. And then once again, I'm going to flip it over and find the hole that I've already started. And this is just a standard hole punch. I think it's 1/4 inch. It's by Fiskars. I picked it up, I think, for like a couple of bucks when it was on sale at Michael's. So, because my hole punch was a metal one, it was very old, and it was giving me some kind of shredded edges. And sometimes I like to put little polka dots on my cards as a background, so I wanted nice clean edges. So the next thing we're going to do is just lay down another black layer. It's a little bit time consuming, but if you have a gypsy and you're able to just lay out the entire thing, it does make it kind of nice. And what I did today, since I knew I was going to be making this, was I just, because before when I made it, I don't think I actually saved it in my gypsy, so I went ahead and just made a file and titled it KeyChain Owl, and this way I've got it for next time. I don't think you could go much thicker than the 8 layers that I do because of the fact that your hole punch, if you're just using this type of hole punch, will start getting too tight really to push through the whole thing. It kind of gets to the maximum thickness that it can take. So that's why I have to do it this way. Okay, another layer done. I think that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and punch our hole. It's a little bit tedious, but, and you know, I only charge $2 for these when I sell them to people. So I don't know that it's really even worth the time, but I just enjoy making them. So from a business standpoint, it's probably not, but the truth is this little part-time business that I do is pretty much for fun anyways. You know, I think I price my things very reasonable. You know, if I wanted to, I can't justify making all of this stuff if I'm not somehow sharing it with people. So I try to price my things so reasonable that I can pretty much just reinvest the money. I mean, I don't know unless if I started getting my cards out there being consigned in stores, you know, that this would ever really turn into a big business. But really it's just my love of paper crafting. I did scrapbooking for many years, but I just kind of got tired of having all of the albums piling up, and I don't think I'm going to be having any children, so it just kind of got a little bit ridiculous. Oh, that's probably a comment from one of my blog followers. They all come to my phone. So when you get to the purple layer, or whatever color your layer would be, because there's all of these little holes that you have to work around, you want to put the adhesive directly to that layer. So that's what I'm doing here. And then you want to line that one up nicely. The thicker that it gets, actually, the easier that it gets to line these up correctly. So it actually gets easier as you go. And that is that layer. So look how cute it's looking, and it's starting to get nice and thick. And then we're going to go ahead and do our top layer. Actually, I have to remember to punch my hole first. When you get thicker and thicker, you want to make sure you're doing it each time. Otherwise, you might get in trouble if you forget. I don't know if there's a tool that will punch through more layers at one time than this hole punch. Maybe the crocodile, but I never really used that one for hole punching, so I'm not really sure. I'm hoping somebody does a really good video on how to use the crocodile. I barely ever use mine. I've had it. I got it with a half-off coupon one time at Michael's. It was actually an AC Moore coupon, I think, that I used at Michael's. So there's our owl. We have to do the little beak next, and I think, oh, let me see here. We'll go ahead and get some zig on that. I feel like my zig's starting to get dry. It needs to be pushed a little bit. Go ahead and adhere that down. A little bit of stuff gook around my edges here. There. Let's get that adhered down. Feels like there's a little bit of like adhesive stuck onto the owl. And it could be. Okay, just get a little bit. There's probably a little bit that was on my fingers. This is what I use. It's a pickup square from Creative Memories, and when my mat gets adhesive stuck on it, I just go ahead and use that, and it works really great. Now for the little feet, I find it easier just to put a bunch of zig right where it's going to go. It's a little bit harder with the nose or with the beak because it's not right perfect, but down here there's nowhere else for it to go, so it kind of does work out perfectly. And just putting the little feet on our owl. So there's the owl. I think what I'm going to do is outline it in black, and I'm going to try to be quick. Hopefully I can find my Micron pen right away. Yep, this is my favorite pen for doing black stitching. It's a micron, and I think, I'm not sure what size it is. If it says 0.25 millimeter. And what I'm going to do is just stitch right around and just go right around it like so. I'm not going to do the feet, I'm just going to do the yellow parts. So it's just kind of quick stitching. It just gives it a little outline and kind of accents it a little bit. So that's kind of why I like to do that. I know the woman that's buying these, she's giving them to her daughters for Valentine's Day. So I thought that was kind of sweet. I think I'm going to go around the eyes too, a little bit. Nice. Okay, and then the only other thing I told her I would do is put a little bit of bling, and I wanted to find my yellow gems. She kind of wanted it to be yellow, I think. So when it comes to applying the bigger gems, I find it easier to use my quilling tweezers rather than the tweezer bee ones. Sometimes they go flying like that, but it usually gets them up easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead, and that's going to be our owl, and I have to punch the final hole in the back, which is right there. Perfect. It's a good idea when you've been doing a lot like that to remember to kind of empty out your hole punch too once in a while so that they don't get too jammed in there. And I notice like there's a little bit jammed in there, so okay. And this is pretty much ready to go now, so we're ready to do the Modge Podging. The only thing I'm going to do, because I did it with the other one, is add some little eyeshadow with stickles on the little eyes, so I have to wait for that to dry before we can start using Modge Podge. So I'll be doing that in a second video, but this was the first one to show you how to put these together. And I hope you enjoy, and I hope you watch the second video. Thank you.